asking him, what's the deal? Why were you guys over there? What were you doing? Yada, yada, yada. And he stuck to the story about the dowry and the cousin and yeah. So we made an agreement. We came to a gentleman's agreement that night, which is significant in the story. He was talking about how, Muslims hate the West.
This is gonna hurt. It's time for the Suffering Podcast. You had some big cases, though.
Yeah, I did.
And the one case that we had talked about briefly is you foiled the last plot of Osama Bin Laden.
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
You want to tell us a little bit about that?
So it was called Operation High Rise. It was 2009. Our overseas partners and our intel partners, they get into emails, they get into things, right? I can't speak, as corny as it sounds, a lot of it is classified till this day, and I signed a non-disclosure before I left, and I can't get into
Sorry, you signed one with us, so go ahead.
So ours supersedes that one.
So they were monitoring an email address, which was known to have bad things attached to it. And fortunately, Najibullah Zazi, Adis Medujanin, who was my guy, he was my part of it, and Zareen Ahmadzai, they went over to Waziristan and they went to a training camp, to an Al-Qaeda training camp, and they met with the number 2 of Al-Qaeda at the time. I forget the guy's name. They went over there under the guise of Adis was going to go marry Zareen's cousin, who was Afghani, and they went with $3,000 as a dowry, right? A dowry is like, you pay off, you could bring money, you could pay them with a cow, whatever it is, right? And I'm getting, the cousin. Hopefully it wasn't a cow for a cow, right? But right, getting your cousin. So that was their guys, that was their little ruse that they had. They ended up going over there through a facilitator. They got through what's called the Khyber Pass, which is in the upper tribal area of Afghanistan, and it was the only way into Waziristan at the time. My guy Adis, I found out later, he almost got killed because they thought he was a plant because he was light-skinned. He was whiter than you guys, right? He was a Bosnian kid, right? Young kid, didn't look the part, to your point. He got radicalized online. He ended up hooking up with Najibullah and Zareen, and anyway, they end up out there. Right, they fly into Pakistan, they make their way into Afghanistan, and then they go over the Khyber Pass. They go there to the Al-Qaeda training camp. They were there for 2 weeks together. They were coming up with a way to do a terrorist attack, right? Similar to 9/11 on U.S. soil, right? They were going to bomb. They ended up settling on a suicide attack, like the London subway attacks. They were going to bomb 3 separate subways. Suicide coordinated attack, and kill thousands of Americans, right? Zareen and Adis came back, and Najibullah stayed an extra week to 10 days and got explosives training. He was going to be the explosives guy. So in his infinite wisdom, he wrote down, he took notes, right? Because he was in class, learning how to build a bomb. And he went to what was the equivalent of a Kinko's at the time in the middle of Afghanistan. And he emails himself the instructions on how to build this bomb. Right? I always say if they're not stupid, we never catch them, right? Yeah. So he emails himself these instructions on how to build this bomb, and it gets intercepted. So now our federal, partners are high alert. So now they start putting out feelers. Does anybody know these guys? They're American. 2 of them were citizens. They had green cards, whatever the case may be. Start looking out. They're putting out feelers, right? NYPD Intel gets one of the leads cut to them, and they're telling them, look, we got to find out if anybody knows this guy Najibullah Zazi, because he's back and forth between Colorado and New York. He has a coffee cart down at Wall Street, right, which is a perfect place to put a bomb. Right, we got to find out where this guy is and where anybody knows him. So now Intel puts out feelers to their sources. There was an imam named Ahmed Weiss Afzali. He was a source for NYPD Intel. Turns out he was like best buddies with Najibullah's dad. So he hears Najibullah's name, gets raised up, he calls the old man. Says, hey, look, NYPD's looking for your son. Like, what the fuck's going on? So now all hell breaks loose. In the meantime, Najibullah is in the Homewood Suites in Colorado. He bought all this acetone, he bought all this shit, and he's making bombs. He's making little bombs. He's trying to get it built up to where it needs to be. He gets the call from his dad, from his old man. He pours all the shit down the drain in the sewer in the back of his apartment complex in Aurora, and then he fucking gets in his car, and Denver JTTF jumps on his ass, and they tail him. They got their go bags, and they jump in a car, and they're driving from fucking Denver to New York. They're on his ass. He gets to the GWB. The plan was we're going to get a dog to do a ruse stop on the George Washington Bridge and go through his car and see if we could scare him into giving shit up. So we come to find out later through, obviously, after the fact, 2020, right? Najibullah says that if the dog would have found what was in his car, he was going to jump off the GW Bridge. That was his plan, right? That's how he was going to martyr himself. They do the ruse car stop, Port Authority police. They had a narcotics interdiction dog. It wasn't an explosives dog. The dog did his once over in the car. The guy had no drugs. They let him go. He had the detonators in the vehicle, but we didn't know it at the time. He goes upon his merry way. He gets to Grand Central Station, thereabouts. Again, gets the call from his old man, dumps the car outside of Grand Central Station, runs. The surveillance team loses him, right? He's on his merry way. Luckily, he left his laptop behind. So our folks in the bureau get the laptop, right? They confiscate the car, they get the laptop. Now we're mirroring hard drives. Now we got some meat on these bones. We get the JOC gets activated, the Joint Operations Center. They assign everybody. You got this guy, you got this guy, you got this guy. Myself and another agent, Farbad Azad. We get assigned to Adis Medujanin. He's our piece, right? We're going to execute search warrants. It's a Friday night. 2:00 in the morning, we're executing search warrants all over the city. We did like 15 search warrants, right? We had guys going everywhere. I'm there. We go to Whitestone, Queens. Search warrant at Adis's parents' house. He lived with his parents and his sister. Do the search warrant, kick the door down, whatever the case may be. The mother almost has a heart attack. Take him out of the apartment. He's not cuffed. There's videos on YouTube of me in the elevator with him. We take him downstairs. Now he's sitting on the hood of my G-Ride, and we're talking to him for 4 hours on the side of the Whitestone Expressway, asking him, what's the deal? Why were you guys over there? What were you doing? Yada, yada, yada. And he stuck to the story about the dowry and the cousin and yeah. So we made an agreement. We came to a gentleman's agreement that night, which is significant in the story. He was talking about how, Muslims hate the West, how they're in everybody's business and they're fighting wars they shouldn't fight and they support the Zionists and yada, yada, yada. And I told him, I said, look, you're angry, whatever the case may be, let's make a gentleman's agreement. We could talk to each other until the cows come home, but we got to make an agreement never to lie to one another. And he said, I will never lie to you. I said, okay, same here. So I told him, get your ass ready because Monday I'm coming back for you and we're going to go to court and we're going to talk. So 4 hours later, he goes back into his apartment. We're doing a search warrants all over the city. We got ugats, like the Italians like to say. We got nothing, right? We got cock. Ugats. We got hot smoking cock is what we have, right? So we leave Monday morning. I show up at his apartment. He comes. There's videos on YouTube of me taking him out. I got my trench coat on. We get him in the car. I take him to Eastern District of New York. Bobby Lasada, may he rest in peace. He was a retired NYPD sergeant. He went over. He was a marshal. He stands outside the door, and I got this guy in the box, and I'm in there for 17 hours with this fucking guy, and I'm going at him. And he's trying to pray, and I'm fucking slamming my hand on the fucking, I'm doing it. Because to me, perp is a perp, right? The same way I'm going to interrogate a crackhead who just killed somebody is the same way I'm going to interrogate a fucking terrorist who wants to blow up the United States. So I'm in there, I'm yelling at him. He's trying to sing. I get him pizza. He's trying to eat. We're talking 17 hours later, and Bobby Lasada wouldn't let anybody in the room, right? And I'm screaming at this guy. And the DOJ, they got guys trying to get in the room, and Bobby Lasada wouldn't let him in the room. Finally, we're going back and forth. We get a little bit of information out of him, nothing crazy, but we tie him into some statements, right? And it's a crime to lie to a federal agent. 1001 is the violation, I believe. You can get up to 8 years in prison for just lying to a federal agent. And I'm a federal agent, essentially, right? Because I got my creds. I'm a deputized U.S. Marshal. So we got him at least on that. Because I know he's fucking lying. Boom. We let him go. Now we're going up on wiretaps. We're all over the place with this thing. We get nothing. Again, we're getting nowhere. So the FBI... Their plan was we're going to keep surveillance on them for 6 weeks and get them back. And I was not happy with that. And I told my sergeant at the time, who shall remain nameless because he's a piece of shit. I told him at the time, I said, I'm not good with this. You know, we got to do something. And he's like, you can't, and blah, 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 blah. So the facilitator, I don't know if you remember, I mentioned him earlier in the story, he got what's called the kunya of our three folks. A kunya is a battlefield name, right? Only your facilitator, your trainers, your handlers, and your cohorts know this battlefield name. It's called a kunya. He knew because he was in custody. The ISI picked him up, the internationals, the Pakistani secret police, picked him up, and through whatever interrogation methods they use in Pakistan, which is none of my business.
A little different from here.
Right, yeah. They got his kunya. We found out his kunya. Now, I can't say the whole kunya. I could just say what's been released, the unclassified part of it. It was, Muhammad was the first part of it. So now, I have this information through the CIA and through the Pakistani secret police, and I decide on my own, I'm going to use this somehow, right? Just like any good cop would do. You got an ace in the hole, right? I'm ready to use this, and I just got to find the right
time
moment,
to do it,
right? So now myself and this State Department agent, Craig Goldstein, we come up with a plan that we're going to go, we wanted to scare him again, right? So he had two passports. He had a Bosnian passport and he had an American passport. One of the American passport had a page ripped out of it, which was a good reason to go confiscate it, right? He took out the page where he went to Pakistan. So I go to the apartment with Farbad, the agent that was with me now, who's now supervising the FBI, and I don't tell him anything of what I'm planning to do. We take the car, surveillance is outside, they know we're going to go hit the apartment. I got a receipt for his warrant for his passports. So I go to the apartment, I go in, right, I take my shoes off, you know, because you got to respect their religion. I take my shoes off, I go in, and he's playing... I forgot the name of the fucking game. He's on Xbox playing video games, right? His sister answers the door. Adis, he comes out. Hey, Angel, how are you? You know, he's calling me. We're on first name basis. How you doing, big guy? What's up? Blah, blah, blah. We're shooting the shit. I go, look, by the way, go get your passports because we're taking them. And now he starts like, whoa, what's going on? You know, and I say, I got a warrant for your passports. Here's the warrant. I'm going to give you a copy. You have to sign it. And I want your Bosnian and American passports. So now his sister, who does everything for him, right? Because the Salafi people, they treat their women like shit. Anyway, the family was a decent family, but the sister was doing everything for this fucking kid. So now she goes to the safe and she gets his passport. She gives us his passports. I look at him and I give him the warrant and I'm like, sign here. So now he signs it. And now I take it and I give it to Farbad, the agent. And I look at Farbad, and Farbad's looking at me like, you better not fucking do it, motherfucker. Like, at that point, I think he's like, he knows that where I'm going. So I look at him, and I look at Farbad, and I go, what name did he sign? So he goes, I can't make this out. He goes, what name did you sign? So Adis says, I signed my name. I said, oh, you signed your name? You didn't sign your kunya, Muhammad? And I said the rest of the name. And he fucking, it looked like I punched him in the chest. He literally got white. I've never seen this in my life. Literally got white, took a stumble back, and I thought he was going to faint. He kind of falls back, and he goes, what do you mean? That's not my name. My name is Adis. And I said, no, it's not. It's Muhammad. And you're done, right? So then I start putting my shoes on. Angel, what do you mean? That's not my name. That's not my name. So now I go up to him. I put my arm around him. I'm a big boy, right? He was a pretty big kid. I put my arm around him, and I whisper in his ear. I said, I know what you did. I got you, and I'm coming back for you, motherfucker. It's over. I leave. Get in my car. Farbad is like, my career is over. He's like, he's done, right? Because we're not supposed to use it. It was classified information. My thing was I'm rolling the dice, right? We don't know what we got. We don't know if these guys planted bombs. We don't know if there's an unindicted co-conspirator somewhere planning on doing this shit. So I'm rolling the dice like any good cop would do. Nothing exceptional I did. I just rolled the fucking dice with the information I had, which I wasn't supposed to use. It was classified.
But your anxiety's got to be through the roof because you got the burden of knowledge.
I'm going crazy, right? I mean, I'm going crazy. So I get in my car. I get in my G-Ride. We have surveillance on the house, so I'm not concerned. So now I'm heading home. I'm like, fuck it, didn't work. An hour later, I get a call on my phone, on my BlackBerry, right? This is 2009. Come back. Your boy just tried to do himself. I'm like, what? No, I thought, right, because we're cops. We're always breaking each other's balls, right? This guy, I forgot who made the call. He's like, come back. Adis just tried to commit suicide. I'm like, what? Where is he? He's at Queens Hospital. I said, I'm on my way, right? So you turn. I got no lights on my G-Ride. It's a 2009 Ford F-150. And I'm driving, doing like 100 miles an hour trying to get to this hospital to talk to this fucking clown. So as I'm driving, a highway cop pulls me over. Because I'm high beaming people, right? He's like, where are you going? I'm like, look, this is the deal. I give him the short version, the Reader's Digest, and he's like, follow me. Throws on his lights and sirens, and boom, we're heading to the hospital. He's giving me an escort. I get to the hospital. I walk in. I see him. He's on a gurney with a neck brace, right? And two old OG detectives from JTTF. We're talking about 2001 JTTF guys. Bobby Murphy and Mike Carney are in there with him. And I look at them, and they're there with Farbad. Farbad is there, the agent. And I look at him, and I go, get out. This guy's mine, right? So they're like, oh, we're just trying to help. I'm like, get out. So now they leave the room, and he's sitting there with his neck brace on. And I look at the nurse, and I'm like, take the neck brace off. Oh, we can't do it. I said, I'm telling you to take the neck brace off. She goes over, she takes the neck brace off. He sits up. I go, I'm going to give you a piece of paper, and you're going to sign this. I'm going to read you your rights. You're going to sign it. You're going to waive them, and you're going to tell me what happened. Because remember, we made an agreement to never lie to each other, and you've been lying to me for a long time, and it's time to stop lying. So he looks at me, he goes, okay, you got me. He signs it, and he gives me everything. And how he ended up in the hospital, after we left, he runs out of the apartment about 45 minutes later, half an hour later, jumps in his sister's Altima, goes 100 miles an hour on the Whitestone Expressway, calls 911. You could YouTube it. He calls 911, and he says in English first, he says, this is Adis. We love death more than you love life. And the operator's like, what? What's your emergency? What are you talking about? Where are you? Where are you? Do you need a police, fire, or ambulance? And he's like, we love death more than you love life. And then he starts saying in Arabic, there is only one God, Allah, and Muhammad is his prophet. He keeps saying that over and over in Arabic, and then you hear him crash. Boom. He goes like 100 miles an hour, no seatbelt on. The fucking guy doesn't get a scratch, obviously, right? Of course. We get a fucking hangnail and we die, right? Cops. This guy, 100 miles an hour in the back of a car. Boom, you hit a crash. He gets out. Surveillance is chasing him. So they're like behind him, far behind him. An off-duty Nassau County cop, don't quote me, might have been Suffolk, jumps out, sees the crash, jumps out, gets him at gunpoint, gets him down. SO gets there, they cuff him, they take him back to the precinct. Back to the hospital, and then
and you win.
That's where we're at.
You win.
And we win. We get everything. The geospatial people from the agency, they come, they get a lot of this is tied into the Osama Bin Laden thing, right? About finding his courier. A lot of this was from this case. Anyway, long story bearable, we get all the information we got to get. And we end up going to trial. We get Najibullah, we get Zareen. Zareen and my guy Adis end up getting 2 life sentences plus 95 years in Supermax. And good guys won.
The burden of knowledge that you must have had throughout that whole, because I'm listening to it, I'm like, I'm trying to remember that. We're in the middle of a show here.
Right.
But the burden of knowledge you must have had, knowing that there are people you love in close proximity to this person.
Absolutely.
And you can't tell them, hey, you're in some serious danger right now.
Yeah.
That anxiety building up had to be unbearable.
It was insane. And the worst part, right, was because I had this kunya and I couldn't tell anybody what I wanted to do, right? Because listen, I mean, I was gonna sink with the ship by myself. What's the worst they're gonna do, right? I violated my non-disclosure, right? I used top secret information that we got through a facilitator, through the CIA, through the Pakistani secret police. What are they going to do? They're going to send me to the 123 precinct in Staten Island and put me on patrol. Yeah. I'll deal with it. You know what I mean? But I didn't want anybody else to get screwed over with me, including the agent Farbad Azad, who I couldn't give him this knowledge because it would have ruined his career.
So we are coming to the end of this thing, and you got it's one of those stories. Like, thank God there's people like you who know your job so well and are so driven.
I appreciate that.
From the way your grandfather. I got to tell you what, your grandfather might be my new favorite person. I just love that.
My
style.
mama raised me, man.
I love that
My
style
grandfather
of teaching a man to be a man.
Yeah.
To your NYPD career, which seems like it was an absolute joy and something you really loved.
I loved it.
To finally foiling a second 9/11.
Yeah.
You've had this amazing journey. Why don't you tell everybody where they can find you?
So,
Not your home address.
Right. Okay.
No. And
No,
if
my
you give
wife
me your
wouldn't
home
have-
address, guess what? Some of that shit in your man cave's going. Especially the chair.
So on Instagram, I'm Big Rican Man, right? That's me. It's
'cause you're Irish.
Yeah, right, exactly. 6'5", 285, give or take a cheeseburger. I'm Big Rican Man on Instagram, and I'm Big Rican Man on X, formerly known as Twitter. That's my thing, right? I advocate for cops on social media. You've seen my stuff.
Yes, I have. And we're going to put a lower third for all that stuff because I want all of our audience to go out and follow you, because some of the truth that comes out of your mouth from experience is second to none.
I appreciate that.
And I look forward to what you're going to do, because you are one of those rare individuals who are willing to step up and in front of the bullet.
Thank you.
And even,
Yeah.
not figuratively and
Yeah,
literally.
right. Yeah.
So you've gone through all this life of law enforcement and protecting this country, which I know you love.
Yeah.
I know you love. And you've gone through a certain amount of suffering, and I'm sure it's been weighed on your family and in every relationship, and that burden of knowledge I spoke about. What do you think all that suffering has taught you?
All the suffering taught me, and the most pivotal moment in my career, the most painful moment in my career besides September 11th, was my first partner on the job, Francis Vasile, committed suicide in January of 1996. And I named my daughter after her. She was my first partner. And I get emotional thinking about it. It's been 26 years, something like that. Love her. And what I went through taught me that I matter, right? I've been in deep, dark places. When I got divorced and I couldn't see my kids every day, I was in a bad place. I know that I was here, put on this earth to do something great, and I did it, and I'm still working. Right, I work for a private company now in corporate security. I'm needed and I'm wanted and I'm loved, and I know that.
Well, you definitely wanted here. Appreciate you.
Thank you. I mean, you're incredible. I mean, I was
Thank
just
you,
sitting
guys.
there. We didn't say much. It just
Sorry.
just kept talking a little.
It was like watching a movie.
I didn't want to
Exactly.
I didn't want to interrupt it all.
Yeah.
Great story.
I appreciate
Angel.
you guys.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
My honor.
And that's going to do it for this episode of the Suffering Podcast, The Suffering of Terrorism with Angel Maysonet. And let's think about all the stuff that we learned.
Kojak.
Kojak big show. Find a place to de-stress yourself. This is a job, and it's not personal. Be careful with profiling. That's a pretty big lesson right there.
Yeah.
The burden of knowledge can bring anxiety, but most importantly, protect what you love.
That's right. Amen.
And that's going to do it for this episode. Don't forget to go to popple.com, put in the code TSP20 for a 20% off your digital business card, and visit the Oakley at 789 Bloomfield Avenue in Nutley, New Jersey. Great food, great fun, great atmosphere. Follow us on all social media. That's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, X, Clapper.
OnlyFans.
And follow Mike at OnlyFans. No, follow Mike at Mike_Falaise. Follow me at Real Kevin Donaldson. And, of course, follow the Suffering Podcast. We're going to see you on the next episode.